Our culture is no less littered with idols than Athens was in the first century. Our temples and cathedrals are now massive shopping malls, and the sports arenas named after the highest bidder. The large churches to which thousands flock and more thousands watch on television, whose preachers and programs members of smaller churches compare their pastors to, have buildings that are barely distinguishable from shopping malls or office complexes, with conference rooms, cafes, coffee shops, and bookstores. I wonder what Paul would make of 21st century America if he came to preach to us. Our idols are less literal than the statues Paul found in Athens, but they serve the same purpose. They are markers for our search of meaning. But all of them, in some way or another, fall short of this goal. An idol, by its very nature, stands in the place of God, occupying a place of ultimate concern in our hearts and preventing us from connecting with the true and living God. Paul says to the Athenians that they are looking for God in the wrong places. God is not contained in little golden statues or indeed in anything that springs from the art and imagination of mortals. Paul would say the same thing to us. God is not to be found in anxious worries about money and appearance and power. Where should we look for God then? If not in money, appearance, or power, if not in success, or in the newest and the biggest and the best, if not in the things we can't control, which is what all those gods the Athenians prayed to were for: health, wealth, our children and families, the weather and next year's crops, safety from our enemies, things beyond our control. As if we have no responsibility in anything related to such things, as though our choices and policies and practices mean nothing. Paul tells the Athenians that the unknown God they have been searching for is within them. The unknown God is the source and support of all, the one in whom we live and move and have our being. God is radically present to each and every one of us, and we find God in the communities and relationships we build with others. Each person a bearer of the image of God. Most of all, God is revealed to us in the person of Jesus. Paul's final testimony to the Athenians about his embodied vision of God is to tell them about Jesus, of God's presence among us by raising Jesus from the dead. Not just spiritually. Paul's claim is that God restored Jesus' earthly body. This was a sticking point for the Athenians, as it is for many of us. More than a sticking point, it was an absolutely ridiculous and wholly offensive idea for Paul's audience. Greek philosophy held that the physical body was inferior and impure. All of Greek philosophy pointed in the direction of escaping the physical existence into a world of pure spirit. It was absurd for them to imagine a God who entered human flesh to live and die as one of us. It's not surprising that many of the Athenians listening to Paul's message quit listening and dismissed him. They simply couldn't imagine a God like this, a God who would succumb to the dirt and sweat and suffering of this life just to know and be known better. And yet, this is the God Jesus reveals to us. A God willing to walk with us even when the road gets tough. A God yearning to be with us in the simple, ordinary things of life, in bread broken and wine poured. A God embodied in a community that spills forth into the world in abundance and in love. This is the God who in Jesus takes time to get to know us, who will listen to us in our grief and confusion, who is present when we gather with our friends and family, who hears the stories we tell, the stories of our hopes and dreams, of our hurts and longings, our ambitions and desires, who listens and knows us, then calls us out, empowers us, and helps us find those friends with whom we can serve and celebrate. A community who will care for us and have our backs, who can become a family for us in the deepest and best sense of the word. So if you're ever wondering where God is and trying to see what God might be doing in the world and what God looks like and is hoping what the world can become, look to one another. God's image is revealed in every face you see around you. The God of love and joy, the God of abundance and grace, the God that suffers with one another, whose heart breaks at the cruelty and meanness in the world, the God who was and still is being denied and crucified, and the God who is rising again. Look at whoever you might meet. Look in the mirror. Learn to tell your story and listen to each other's stories. Like Paul, we are called to share God's good news with everyone we encounter, and in language they can understand. And sometimes that means we might use words, but often not. Just as Paul adjusted his message so the Athenians could encounter God, we are called to talk about God's love, to show God's love in any way we can to whoever might need it, whoever might want to know it. Would you pray with me, please? We long for community and for your presence, Holy One. For it is in you we live and move and have our being. And it is with one another that we become the body of Christ in the world. We have come today for many reasons, to hear a bit of your truth revealed and to understand our lives in a new way. We have each come with our own reasons and our own story. May these reasons and stories be immersed in your sacred story, finding ourselves caught up in the drama and beauty of Jesus' teachings, life, and ministry. Enable us to move boldly into the future as an Easter people, following a risen Lord, so that the life of Jesus might live on in us and through us. Amen. Friends, sisters, and brothers, go in peace. Be good to yourselves and to each other. Give thanks for all that has been and all that is yet to be. Even in the hardest of days, find that spark of light and life for which to be grateful. And if you can't find that spark, go make one. Do something for someone else, then be thankful that you could. We can save ourselves. We can heal ourselves. We can heal the world by our acts of kindness and service, done in the name of God and for Christ's sake. Thanks be to God. Amen.